Welcome to the Fearlessly Authentic Sash and Soul podcast. In each episode, we'll explore the power of embracing authenticity with a winning mindset and overall well-being to help you navigate life and the pageant world with confidence and resilience. I'm Rayanna Johnson, former Miss Wisconsin and founder of Fearlessly Authentic Coaching. So let's dive in. Welcome to Sash and Soul. Hello, welcome back to Sash and Soul. So glad to have you here this week. I hope that you have taken the last week to reset, regroup, take a breath of fresh air. There has been so much going on in our world and it really hasn't stopped. So hopefully you have been taking time to take care of yourself and finding balance in the things that you are listening to and what you're watching. So this is actually one of those episodes that might be a really good reset for you and a bit of a distraction from the things going on outside of our control, because today I want to talk about the things that are within your control. We're going to be talking about local season and competing in back-to-back locals. So I know that this is a very common experience when you start local season and you want to win the local title to get back to state. So you're going to compete weekend after weekend after weekend until you get that ticket to state. I have a lot of clients that are competing this year after a year of back-to-back local competitions. And with that is going to come a lot of anticipation and hopefulness and excitement. It's also going to come with some anxiety and maybe some pressure. And so we've had a lot of conversations about this in my coaching calls. And so I thought maybe this would be a really relevant topic for many of you as well. If you already have a local and you're getting ready for state, or you are planning on competing at state after many, many years of competing and not getting the crown, or if you're struggling with any of those experiences of I just keep going after this and nothing's changing and I'm not reaching my goal and I'm feeling a little burnt out, I think this episode is for you. So I'm going to be talking about some mindset changes, some burnout and how to avoid it. I'm going to be talking about your self-care and how to actively practice self-care, and then just some practical tips for you. So that's kind of the rundown of what this episode is going to entail. But as I was thinking about and brainstorming for this episode this week, I realized that sometimes self-care and mindset changes can seem a little bit fluffy or cliche. So today I'm going to be talking about how to avoid burnout and to balance your energy with evidence-based approaches. And so I went down the rabbit hole because I'm a geek about mindset stuff. So there was a lot of research that I've already read that I brought back up that I wanted to use in this episode today to share with you so that you could have an actual evidence-based, research-based understanding of why these things are important and why you should be applying these approaches to your life right now so that you can achieve your goals. So let's get started with some mindset shifts. How to reset your mindset going into local season or competing for a title that you've competed for many times without achieving that goal. Here's the first thing. Local competitions or state competitions, or really any competitions in pageantry, are opportunities. They're not ultimatums. When you see a competition as a do or die ultimatum, it's going to increase your anxiety and it's going to decrease your performance. So this is like the desperation energy when you're putting so much pressure on yourself to win that it becomes almost everything to you. And the thing with desperation energy is that the judges are going to feel that and the audience is going to feel that. And honestly, you're going to have a crappy time because it's not going to feel good. So let's talk about some evidence-based approaches and understanding behind mindset shifts when it comes to going after your goals. So first of all, and I talk about this quite a bit, there's growth mindset and there's fixed mindset. And this all comes from research by Dr. Carol Dweck. It's in her book, Mindset. I highly suggest it. It's on my recommended reading list in the Fearlessly Authentic app. In Mindset, she outlines growth versus fixed mindset. In the scope of pageantry, a growth mindset looks like viewing competitions as opportunities to build resilience and motivation. And similar research says that when you view challenges as opportunities to grow, it's going to lead to greater persistence, confidence, and long-term success. Having a high pressure or this ultimatum mindset is actually going to weaken your performance under stress because it's going to trigger overthinking and self-consciousness. And as we know, overthinking and self-consciousness is going to cause you to turn inward, and you will no longer be open and authentic and vulnerable and real. And therefore, you will not be 100% yourself, which is what we want when we're competing. So instead, when we positively, or rather, I like to use the word accurately, reframe our experiences and see them as stepping stones rather than final judgments, it's going to reduce your stress and it's going to improve your performance quality. So in essence, each competition that you participate in is part of your bigger journey. It's not the whole story. When you reframe competition as an opportunity to practice skills in a real setting, to connect with community leaders and judges, to test your messaging and refine your initiative, to build relationships with the other contestants, and to learn and to grow, then you can approach the experience with curiosity and confidence instead of fear. So remember that locals are not ultimatums. Consider it like a dress rehearsal with the judges. So at every time that you step on stage, you're going to gain data, you're going to gain clarity, and of course, confidence that's going to move you closer to your crown or whatever goal it is that you're trying to achieve. The other key piece of mindset shifts is that you need to avoid comparison while competing during local season. And mostly what I'm hearing when it comes to comparison during local season is that you guys are counting yourself out because you're competing against someone who was in the top 5 at state or consistently has won local titles immediately, like at their first time out. But what happens when you compare yourself to someone who placed higher in a previous pageant? There are 2 different paths that open up for you. The first path is a discouragement path, and this is the fixed mindset that I was just explaining. It looks like she's better than me, or I'll never measure up. That's going to lead to self-doubt. It's going to lead to that imposter syndrome. And of course, then you will underperform. The other path is the growth path or the opportunity mindset. And it kind of looks like believing that she's showing you what the judges valued and what you can refine. So this is going to create clarity. It's going to create motivation, and it's going to create skill building. Comparison, in essence, is not bad. We have been doing it naturally as part of our human existence forever. It's partly how we grow and learn, especially as children, because we're comparing ourselves to those around us and our parents, and we're learning from what we're seeing. It becomes problematic when you are devaluing yourself by looking at someone else and elevating them above you. It's also problematic when you are using it as an ego boost when you're looking at other people and then building yourself up by thinking that you're better than them. So we want to find a really beautiful in-between that's healthy when you are comparing yourself to other people. Learn from them, decide what you like, take what you like, leave what you don't, and apply that to yourself. Research backs all of this up. So upward comparison, like I'm saying, isn't inherently bad. It depends on whether it's interpreted as proof of your inadequacy or as a model for possibility. So the key here is how to study without diving into self-shame or self-judgment. So in practice, it means that you're going to look at what the higher placing contestant did well. Maybe they had a better interview. Maybe they have more clarity with their platform. Maybe they have a stronger stage presence. Then you need to ask yourself, what can I learn and apply to my own growth? And most importantly, you have to remember that the judges are going to change. Scores are always going to vary. And authenticity means so much more than imitation. When you are trying to imitate others, or when you are trying to be perfect because you're seeing all these other things and you're trying to emulate those things, when you're trying to be perfect, that is performative. Performative is not authentic. It's not real. When I say performative, I truly mean that you're behaving in a way that you think other people are going to appreciate. But when you're performative, you're not actually showing authentic emotions and authentic reactions to people. You're showing them what you think they want to see. That's not authentic. It's also sometimes intimidating, and there's a very uncomfortable disconnect when you do that. So, comparison is helpful as long as you are using it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to apply what you're learning so that you can grow and improve. But always staying true to who you are and applying it to you strategically so that you can build up your skill set while remaining authentic in exactly who you are. So, the mindset reset looks like having a growth mindset, reframing your competition so that you're looking at competitions as opportunities, not ultimatums, so that you become desperate to win. And then, of course, reframing the way that you compare yourself to others, reframing the way that you approach competition when you are competing with someone that has been historically successful on stage. Okay, so now that you have a clear understanding of some of these mindset changes that need to happen as you're approaching local season or in the middle of local season, the other thing we really have to focus on is avoiding burnout. Because no matter how great your mindset is, you can still burn yourself out by competing weekend after weekend after weekend because it's exhausting. It takes a lot of mental, emotional, and physical stamina to do that. So we need to avoid burnout. The first step is to recognize the signs of burnout. Burnout looks like constant fatigue. It looks like dreading each competition rather than being excited about it. And it looks like losing the joy in your preparation, like you're not having fun anymore. So, to avoid burnout or to reset, if you're feeling some of those symptoms of burnout, we need to reframe the idea of rest. That rest is actually an active part of your preparation. So, high achievers, like most of us in pageantry are, often confuse productivity with progress. Let me repeat that because I think this is really, really important to remember. We tend to confuse being productive with progressing towards our goals. Here's what happens for us. When we complete a task, we get a dopamine hit. It makes us feel really productive. But being busy does not mean that you're being effective. So rather than focusing on the activities and getting all these things done and checking all the things off of the to-do list and being at all the appearances, you want to focus on the outcomes. What is the quality of your activity rather than the quantity? So there's a lot of evidence from organizational psychology and motivation research. Progress is tied to clarity of direction, not the volume of activity. So when you aren't aligning your daily actions with your big picture, you're going to risk burnout and frustration because despite all of the productivity, you're not going to feel closer to achieving your dream. You're going to be doing a whole heck of a lot of stuff, but it's not actually moving you forward. It's not driving the needle towards what you want to achieve. So what this looks like for many of us is spending hours practicing our walking or redoing our hair and makeup instead of doing the things that are important, like refining your interview skills or really honing in on your self-development, building your vocabulary, researching for your initiative. Those are the things that really earn you the crown. It's that internal work, and that internal work is hard work. And so I know that's partly why we avoid it. It feels like we're making more progress when we're doing something active versus when we're doing something internal. It seems like a more tangible thing that we're doing. So it's also going to look like filling your schedule just for the sake of busyness or to look good to others, rather than choosing partnerships that align with your social impact initiative. So what we have to do is we have to shift from this, how much did I get done today mentality to, Did today's actions move me closer to my goals? In order to reframe your energy around progress rather than productivity. And this is something that I have to actively practice for myself as well, because I could easily fill my day with a whole bunch of mindless tasks and feel like I got a lot done, but in the same breath also realize that I didn't actually get much done because I'm not any closer to what I actually want to achieve. So busyness is a habit, and shifting it into a progress-focused energy instead of being productivity-focused certainly comes with some struggles, and I know that from lived experience. And it's just like breaking any other habit that you have. But with shifting to a progress-focused energy comes a fear that you're not doing enough, or a fear that other people may think that you're not doing enough, or a fear of failure. And so that's why we need to focus on balance. And it really helps when you have an outside perspective that is actively focused on helping you find that balance to rest and reset while still helping you progress toward your goals. That's why I have historically loved working with a business coach. That is why I really focus on balance with my clients. And I'm not afraid to tell you, you need to take a break. You are not allowed to focus on anything pageant for the next week because you need to just be you. Because we have to remember that pageants are supposed to be fun. And if they're not fun anymore, we really need to start reassessing why we're doing them in the first place, or assess how we can get back to the fun of it. And part of that is going to come from self-care. So let's talk about what self-care is. And I've done podcasts about self-care, but today I brought in some more evidence and some research to support why self-care is important. Because self-word has become and is sort of a buzzword, and it's often associated with misunderstandings on what self-care actually means. So here's some evidence behind the value of self-care in relation to your success. The World Health Organization recognizes burnout as an occupational phenomenon. In 2016 and 2019, studies have shown that rest, recovery, and self-care practices reduce burnout risk. In addition, research from the early 2000s shows that self-care improves resilience, it improves stress management, and of course then improves your overall performance by replenishing your mental and physical resources. And if you think about that, how much mental and physical stamina do you need to compete weekend after weekend? If you're not resting, you're not going to be able to do that, and you're certainly not going to be able to do it well, even if you're doing it. In 2011, a study showed that even short breaks and exercise or mindfulness practices significantly improve focus, decision-making, and creativity. How important is focus for you in not just competing, but in your preparation for competing? I'll have clients that come to me, and if they're having a bad day, we are not working on anything that takes a whole lot of brain power. We are going to focus on something else that is just as productive, but much more helpful in progressing towards goal achievement versus pushing and pushing and pushing to do a mock interview for an hour when you just don't have the mental stamina and focus. And in 2008, a study found that engaging in consistent self-care reduces anxiety, reduces depression, and reduces physical health risks, while also boosting life satisfaction and longevity. Life satisfaction. How nice would it be that even if you are competing weekend after weekend and you're hitting that runner-up placement every time, you're just not quite there yet, as you're growing and as you're learning and as you're improving while competing over and over again, you're still feeling satisfied. How nice would that be? So maybe that in and of itself is enough motivation for you to maintain that balance. If you combine the growth mindset that we've been talking about today with self-care, how much more satisfied are you going to be in this experience? How much more fun and joy are you going to have within it? So self-care is not self-indulgence. It's evidence-based performance strategy. Let me repeat. This is evidence-based performance strategy. If you are looking for a competition preparation strategy, self-care needs to be a part of it, period. Self-compassion and self-care lower your levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and it's going to increase your resilience. Athletes, professionals, when they practice intentional rest, they show higher long-term achievement than those who overtrain or overwork. You guys, so often high achievers like us think that self-care is taking time away from our goals, like we're being lazy or we're wasting our time. But the research proves that it's what gives you the energy and the presence to actually achieve your goals. So taking breaks from your prep, investing in your joy, prioritizing your mental health, these things are actually going to make you more competitive because you'll show up refreshed, authentic, and you'll be able to connect with the judges and the audience. So real quick, I know we know what self-care is. I know we know that there are a lot of practices out there, but just some really quick resets: journaling, going for a quick 10-minute walk, having a fun-only day where nothing has to be productive, doing a guided meditation. I have a whole list of guided meditations in the Fearlessly Authentic app as part of the monthly membership. And they're all based on specific things that you might be struggling with, whether that's comparison or fear of failure or achievement. I'm trying to think of all of them. There's a handful of them in there, but doing a really quick, 10-minute guided meditation is powerful as a self-care practice and quick reset. Another self-care practice that is also kind of a buzzword, and we actually need to practice this healthfully, is boundaries. Saying no when your schedule is full, or honestly saying no when you've been invited to compete, but you had already decided you were going to take a weekend off. It's so nice to be invited. That's so flattering. That's so nice of them. But stick to your boundary. Set a boundary for yourself so that you're taking care of yourself. Boundaries are not always about setting boundaries for other people. We have to set boundaries for ourselves too. And finally, a really solid self-care practice that I preach over and over again is celebrating your small wins. Small wins are not placements. They're not awards. They're little things that happen to you in your preparation, in your day-to-day, at a competition that feel good, that are elevating you. Those are small wins. So when you celebrate your small wins, it will help keep your motivation really nice and fresh. So as I wrap up here today, quick and easy podcast episode for you, here are some practical tips for you when you are competing. Plan your prep week with balance. Okay, so I'm always going to emphasize you need to set priorities. Prioritize your school or your work. That is top priority. Prioritize your wellness. That's even top priority. Then focus on the areas that are going to help you progress towards your goal. Interview, mindset, business plan, etc. And absolutely schedule time to rest and reboot. Add it to your to-do list to do a guided meditation or a quick 10-minute walk or whatever it is that you need to do for just a short bout of regrouping in the middle of the day. Treat your local competition and the local season as practice for the bigger stages. This is going to take the pressure off. If it's a practice round, then there is no pressure. You're going to go out there, you're going to do your best, you're going to learn from the mistakes, you're going to come back better because you just practiced. And finally, anchor everything in your why. Why do you want the crown? Why does this matter to you? What is your big picture? And that's deep and it's complex. So focus on that. When you can focus on your why, when you can focus on the big picture, and that is where your mind's eye is turned, and you have blinders onto everything else is going to fade away into the background. You're not even going to notice it. You're not going to notice who else is competing and what they placed earlier. You are not going to notice a tiny mistake that you made or a face that a judge made during your interview. None of that's going to matter because you're focused on your big picture and your progression to achieving those goals. I started Fearlessly Authentic because I wanted to offer a new approach to pageant competition prep. Because I've been there with the internal pressure, and I've been there with the external pressure. I've been there with the burnout. And when I was competing, I struggled quite a bit with mental health issues. And the burnout that I felt on my way to Miss America really led me to some pretty severe mindset glitches and took away from my experience. And when I started coaching and hearing women from around the country talking about their own mindset struggles, talking about their own mental health struggles. And then when Chesley Chris died by suicide, and we're hearing of other young women completing suicide within the pageant industry, or in the pageant world, rather, I think to myself, like, in this industry that is supposed to be empowering and uplifting women, what's missing? There's a disconnect somewhere, because in so many ways it does empower and uplift. But for some reason, there are other things that are really getting to us that are causing some catastrophic issues for us long term. And so that is why I want to be a voice for self-care, a voice for healthy mindset, a voice for learning how to avoid burnout. Because that's what you guys need. You deserve to be successful. More importantly than that, you deserve to be happy and satisfied and experience joy. That's what this is supposed to be about. So the crown is not worth sacrificing your peace. This season is about your growth. It's about your joy, and it's about becoming, not just winning. So please reflect on how you're going to weave rest into your prep this week. How are you going to shift your mindset into a growth mindset? How are you going to shift your approach to comparison so that you're not putting yourself down and self-judgment all over yourself, rather than using it as a tool to elevate your skill set and learn something new? How are you going to apply self-care to your daily activities so that you can maintain that energy, so that you can perform at your best no matter what it is that you're doing? Focus on progress, not perfection. Focus on progress, not productivity. Most important, take care of yourselves. Okay, with that, you guys, enjoy your week. I think it's just beautiful, soon to be fall weather. Fall officially starts on Monday. And I told my husband that I wasn't going to make him chili until officially fall had started. So I may be making chili next week. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye. If you've been working so hard but still feel like something's missing, then I want to personally invite you to schedule a free coaching consultation. This is for you if you're tired of overthinking every detail. You're doing everything you can to prepare, practicing your walk, your talent, interview, refining your paperwork, and staying up late analyzing every possible outcome. You put in the work, but still question if you're doing enough or if you are enough. So in just one call, we'll talk through where you're at, what's been holding you back, and how you can start showing up fully prepared to win the title and actually do the job once you get it. If you're looking for more than just surface level prep, and you're ready to prepare with strategy, support, and confidence that actually lasts, I'd love to be part of your process. Head to the link in the show description to grab your spot, and I'll see you there.